Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of August 7th, 2024. I have my voice back. Still fighting the remnants of COVID. It really knocked me on my butt. I've had COVID twice. Both times I got it at San Diego Comic-Con. So it's a non-exclusive there. You went to San Diego Comic-Con. There's every chance you picked it up.
Yeah,
Heard from a lot of people that had it. It's just one of those things, man. I wish, I'm usually pretty careful. Um, but yeah, I mean, I admit I didn't wear a mask. I wasn't really thinking about it. It wasn't on my mind, even though I know the variants were spreading around or what have you. But I did even hear from people who tried to get boosters ahead of time that couldn't. So yeah, it's still going around. But because of that, I apologize. I haven't even gotten all my content that I recorded at San Diego out yet. Because on top of that, I'm still trying to dig out from the day job, and then being sick just slowed everything down. Super brain foggy. But I hope everybody had a chance to listen to the Jason Aaron interview about Absolute Superman. I talked about before
mhm,
we first talked about Absolute. We talked about All In. I expressed some excitement, but the Absolute, I had my reservations. But I'll tell you what, after being at San Diego Comic Con and hearing how excited the creators were and getting a chance to talk to them and some of the things they were saying, it's gotten me pretty excited. I gotta admit. And of course, both Jason Aaron and Scott Snyder, when I talked to Snyder and Nick Dragotta, they both kind of revealed some things that maybe they weren't supposed to say. I haven't really seen
yeah,
them reported on anywhere else, so it's kind of interesting. The whole idea of the Absolute Superman carrying a cape that's made out of the dust of Krypton, like the
yeah,
dust, the dead world, his dead civilization. Super dark, man, super dark. But
yeah.
Aaron's like, is it though, or is it more a memorial? A reminder. He's got the black suit. It's a suit of mourning. Everything's purposeful, as he said. It was just
Yeah.
a really great interview.
It's
Wonderful to
one
have.
thing that stood out when I listened to the interview. One thing that stood out was his passion for
Oh
Superman.
yeah.
It really stood out when I watched it, and I would encourage people to watch it on your YouTube channel because I always get more of a benefit. I always appreciate when you can see the passion and not just hear the passion from the creator. So it's Jason Aaron certainly is excited about Absolute Superman for sure.
Yeah, and the same thing, it's funny. Scott Snyder, and he's even said this before to his classes where he's talking about, okay, when you make it, here's what you do. You come up with your, yeah, when you have your series and you've made it, whatever, and you come up with your tagline, and that's what you say in interviews, whatever. And he does it very well. But the thing is, you don't get a lot of new information, right? Like I've heard Scott give interviews and read things he said, multiple times about the All In, and he says he repeats himself a lot, and I get it. Like not everybody is going to see every interview, every resource or whatever, but he's saying a lot of the same things, whatever. But even though I gave him the opportunity, I knew he was going to say a lot of the same things. But again, I know there's people that are going to be seeing it for the first time. That interview from San Diego Comic Con from the DC booth with him and Nick Dragotta. I gave him the opportunity. Hey, here's your chance to let everybody know what it's about, and I know he's going to say the same things that he said before. But to your point, when you get to see him, when you get to see the passion, right? And then later when it's just him and Nick sort of talking, riffing off each other, again, you can see how excited they are. They're both talking about how um, they're creating this comic in a different way than they ever have before. Like Nick Dragotta is literally going to Scott's house, putting the thumbnails up in Scott's office, and they're breaking down the story and what have you. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Um, as much as I wasn't excited for Absolute Superman, I really wasn't excited for Absolute Batman. Part of the reason is because, to Scott's point, he's like, I've done this before. I've written Batman. I've read Scott Snyder Batman.
mhm,
I've been there, done that. No, no, no. This is so completely different from anything they've done before. The Batman Who Lifts. I love that nickname. I just love everything about it. They're so excited. I can't wait to see. I mean, based on the hints they're giving, it's different. It's totally 180. I'm like, is it going to turn out that his parents are criminals and got you?
yeah,
I'm sure you remember that Batman special from 1984. I think it's written by Mike W. Barr. The art is by Michael Golden, and it's the
yeah.
Wraith, right? And
Yes, I
and
remember. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's so good.
yeah,
It
very good.
basically has these two narratives, like as Bruce's parents are being killed that same night. Jim Gordon is shooting. He's a rookie, and he shoots this guy who's stealing a television, and that's the
Yeah.
Wraith's and the Wraith's dad, and so
Dad.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's kind of the opposite of Batman
Opposite
in a way.
origin. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, is that maybe what we're gonna get? Alfred looks amazing. So anyway, go and check it out. There's more interviews to come. I still have an interview from G. Willow Wilson to put out. Tom Taylor, Nicole Maines, Mark Wade. So there's still a lot to come. I'm trying to get them all out this week. And there's other interviews as well. Bad Idea interview, the Energon press release room from Skybound, talking about GI Joe and Transformers and what have you. So there's still a lot to come. So again, appreciate everybody's patience. But we're here to talk about the DC books this week. Overall, I thought it was kind of a meh week. We got a new Gotham City Sirens starting. We got the latest installment of Birds of Prey, Eisner nominated, which I thought was pretty good. Next issue of Absolute Power, Batman Absolute Power tie-in. But I don't know, nothing really jumped out at me. Like, I have no idea what my book of the week is going to be. As I sit here and say that, because I nothing really stood out. So I don't know. How'd you feel about the week overall, Rocky?
I was disappointed this week. I was. I did get some. I did today. I read most of the comics today, and I got some bad news. It's going to cost me more to repair my truck, which bothered me. So maybe I'm a little bit of a bad mood. So maybe that affected my ability to enjoy the comics. But there's only one that I actually enjoyed this week. Only one. That really stood out to me, and the rest were all meh. So it's a very easy pick for me. I already know what it is. Yeah, I've sort of ranted myself out because I don't want to. I'm excited about I'm excited where DC is going to be, where I hope DC is in October, and I hope that the weeks that we get before then aren't what I experienced this week, because this week was a disappointment. It's one of the bigger disappointments in the last few months, actually, this week.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of tend to agree. I wouldn't go so far as to say there was only one book that I enjoyed. There were a few, but even the ones that I enjoyed were, nothing blew me away. Again,
Yeah.
everything was just. I mean, there were some books that were okay, that were, I guess you'd say they were enjoyable, but they're not anything that's gonna stand out as super memorable. I guess is how I would put it. So anyway, let's kick it off with Batman 151. It is a Absolute Power tie-in, Into the Unknown. Chip Zdarsky is the writer, Mike Hawthorne on pencils, Adriano Di Benedetto on inks, Romulo Fajardo Jr. on colors, and Clayton Cowell on letters. I did like this one. It's, again, a tie-in to Absolute Power, and interesting. I mean, there's no particular reason that I read this ahead of reading the Absolute Power tie-in or the Absolute Power main series, other than the fact that it just came before in the way that the press previews were ordered, if you will. So I didn't have any particular reason to read this ahead of anything else. I sort of wish I'd read Absolute Power before I read this, only because I feel like, in Absolute Power, there's something that happens that basically sends Batman and Selina on this mission. And the mission they're on is to go and steal the Mother Box. So they think they know where the Mother Box is in Gamora. It's their job to go and steal it. And things don't exactly go the way that they might think that they will, just in terms of where the Mother Box turns out to actually be. It's not necessarily what they think it's going to be. So interesting, and other than that, there's not really much to say, because while being a surprise of what happens with the Mother Box and where Waller has it, everything else is sort of paint by the numbers. That being said, it is enjoyable, and I think Zdarsky is really getting his handle, really getting his footing on the characterization of Batman, the characterization of Selina, and what have you. So, from that sort of perspective, I think this works really, really well. But, like I said, is it going to be super memorable? Probably, probably not, to be honest. So, yeah, I thought this was just okay, unfortunately. A lot of action, but a lot of setup. So, what were your thoughts on it?
This was one of the better ones this week. This was in second place, but I couldn't help feeling maybe a little bit underwhelmed. But it's funny. I got the impression that the reason why just to build on what you're saying, it's an absolute. We haven't reviewed Absolute Power #2 yet. We will later on in this podcast. It's an Absolute Power #2 where essentially, not much of a spoiler, Nightwing assigns Batman the task of finding the mother box. And this was supposed to be a heist. So, of course, the best people to pull off a heist you think would be Batman and Catwoman. And that's true, except for the fact that none of this really involves using their heist abilities. Like, they would have been better off sending Superman, or you could have almost had anybody sort of pull this off, really. And also, for them not bringing at least some superhero that still has their power set. Was maybe a foolish. I would have brought maybe Flash or somebody, but that's me playing script doctor, and that's unfair. This still works. I'll give Chip Zdarsky his due. I kind of like the setup here. I like the fact that Bruce Wayne is thinking outside the box. I like his relationship with Selina. I like this much better than they were. The last time they were really together was during the whole Gotham war thing, which I wasn't really a big fan of. I like the fact that Selina and Bruce Wayne, they still have that respect for each other, and Selina right away has no problem saying, yes, of course I'll help you. The world's at stake. I like the fact that they're not at each other's throats. No, they're going to help each other because I like that. And I like that they went undercover, and it's a really good cover story. They go to Okinawa, which is apparently close to Gamora, and they want to. Basically, the plan is that Bruce Wayne, he goes undercover as Mr. Blackwell. Miss Tess Worth is Selina, his executive assistant, and their military contributor, their military personnel that they're looking for a place to train their private army, and they give $4 million to the head military man to go to a secret portion on Okinawa, where Batman is fairly certain they then look around and find the hidden base that will contain the mother box. And of course, as they get there, it's pretty cool because we got very powerful members of the Suicide Squad: Black Alice, Deadeye, Clock King, and Bizarro ends up showing up. And just great action in this issue. I particularly love how Batman sort of manages to get one up on Bizarro, which you got to think is, how the hell are you going to do that? I mean, Bizarro is ridiculously powerful, but of course Bizarro has the mind of a child, and Batman very cleverly uses that to his advantage. I think Catwoman's used well. I think Black Alice is used well, and they do manage to make it into the bunker. And instead of finding the mother box, they find a boom box. And there's even a quiet moment a touching moment between Selina and Bruce as before they jump into the boom box, not knowing where it will take them. Batman knows that they could end up going to a place where they get killed, and Selina, of course, is with him all the way. And that's cool. I like that. And of course, when they ultimately get to their destination, it ends up being they end up on Zarnia, which is what is left of Zarnia, because it was destroyed in the Superman in the Brainiac storyline. And I really like once again where they end up. It ends up on an appropriate cliffhanger where they're facing. It seems almost like they've been set up. How are they going to find the mother box now? They seem Bizarro is there with Black Alice and Deadeye, and I mean they look to be in harm's way now. How are they going to get out of this? It's a perfect cliffhanger, and I thought it was well done, and it works. I think it works well in conjunction with Absolute Power #2 that we're going to review. And, spoiler alert in terms of my my candidates for picks of the week, it was really the Absolute Power tie-ins, the Absolute Power in this tie-in, which really was the best of the week for me. But I thought this was really well done, and I thought the art was great. I thought the coloring was great. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, again, your criticisms are valid. Yeah, they are on a heist, but yet everything's out in the open anyway. I mean, other than the fact that they are undercover, but yeah, everything unravels relatively quickly. Um, but you do feel this sense of danger, right?
Yeah.
You're right, and maybe they should have taken someone that still had powers, what have you. Um, but I mean, overall, as much as I'm enjoying DC books, I have to admit I had a little bit higher expectations for Absolute Power.
Yeah.
Um, it's not quite coming together for me yet. Maybe my expectations were too high. I love the big ideas, but it's falling apart a little bit in the execution for me. It's a little bit too, I don't know, a little bit too choppy. Maybe is the word. But anyway, let's move on. Kneel Before Zod, #8, final issue. Joe Casey's the writer. Dan McDade is the artist. David Barrett on colors. Troy Petrie on letters. I I don't know what to think of this. Um, a lot has happened in this series for only 8 issues, and I like that. The art's been consistent throughout, which it hasn't been consistently great, but it's been consistently good. Um, halfway through, we kind of got, I don't want to say thrown for a loop, but interesting choice to make with Zod almost seeming like he was giving up in a way, after what happened um, with his wife and his son having left, and you just wondered, did he give up? He went and destroyed the flagship of the Coons, and basically sort of allowed himself to burn, for for lack of a better term, um, which was just really strange, honestly,
Mm.
because it had seemed like he gave up, but then his body did regenerate after his body was picked up by this prison ship or whatever, and then yeah, total. I don't want to say jump the shark moment, but just a strange way for the series to continue with him sort of taking over as being in charge of this prison ship, and then that's where the second half of the series is gone, and it just sort of seems like meandering in a way. Like what was the point of that? What was the point of having the Emerald Empress there? What is the point
Yeah.
of Sinestro showing up? Okay, we're gonna get a fight between the two, or a team up between the two, and we don't really get one or the other. They sort of fight, but they're not. They don't really seem invested in it. Like they're sort of almost like they know that they're just going through the motions of quote unquote fighting, that they're not really fighting. The whole thing just seems strange to me. The way this last half of the series played out. Like, did Joe Casey run out of ideas for what to do? Like, I don't know, because
Yeah.
toward the end, at the very end here, with what Dodd says, hey, we're gonna go and attack the Kund Empire. We're gonna take them down. Clearly he wants his revenge and what have you. That makes sense. I can understand him doing that, and it seems like that's definitely a return to the Zod we've all known for a really long time. But the build up to get to that, it all felt so forced. It just felt like what I don't really understand what the point of the back half of the series was or is. I I, I don't know. It almost feels like if Zod went and destroyed the Coon ship and his body in the process, and then allowed him to regenerate, that could have been just the next issue, right? Like it ends with this prison ship after he destroys the Coon ship, and that issue ends with this prison ship picking him up and takes him wherever there's a yellow sun and his body can regenerate. The next issue, he kicks everybody's ass in the prison ship and takes it over and says, "Yeah, I'm going after the Coon Empire." Like, and we get the same ending that we got here. So we got 3.5 to 4 issues, I feel like, of just filler, for lack of a better term. Like
Yeah.
I don't. It was just a very strange ending. I mean, the ending itself makes sense, but to get here, yeah, it just I don't know. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this series overall. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, what were your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Well, my feeling is are not mixed. I ask myself one question, and I'm very disappointed in the answer, and that is Zod more interesting to me at the end of the series than he was before it began? And he's much less interesting to me as a character now.
Well, he's gone back.
I,
He's de-evolved, but that was what they wanted to do.
well, no, fair enough. However, there's but the point of you can devolve a character and still make him more interesting. At least you could have done that. There's a way that in my head canon, I'm not going to play script doctor. That's not what people listen to us for. I'm going to review the comic that we've read. But there's in my head, I could imagine a different chain of events that maybe devolved them better than this. There was you said it. There's a lot of filler here that I'm questioning why it was in here. It was superfluous and unnecessary. Now, having said that, there's other things as well. I don't. I'm actually, it's one thing to devolve him, but it's not clear to me why at the very beginning of this series, even before Ursa died. Now, to be clear, when Ursa died, I was imagining that was the pivotal event that would drive him. The grief would further cement his devolution into anger and despair and darkness and back to his evil self. But even before Ursa died, Zod was hallucinating seeing Jor-El. So even before Ursa died, he was hallucinating seeing Jor-El for reasons which we've never been told. So why was he hallucinating Jor-El? Is he mentally ill? I mean, sociopaths don't hallucinate. So why was he doing that in the first place? Apparently he just was. So I guess he was on the path to maybe something was wrong with his mind anyway, even before Ursa died. And because at the end here, there's a whole sequence near the end of this where he's battling an imaginary Jor-El. And then at the end concludes that, and he even tells Sinestro that the one bane of his existence is the son of Jor-El, the son of his jailer. You know, I'm reminded of the immortal words of the Superman movie, General Zod. He hates Superman more than ever. What? Why? Superman's on the cover but he's not even in the series. Superman. Well, you hate Superman? I mean, what? It just seems odd to me. It just the whole thing just seems, Now I can understand him wanting revenge against the Khans. They killed his wife but they never destroyed his planet. He gave up his planet. He gave up. Anyways, you and I have had some interesting discussions on this, and you made a lot of valid points, and you made me think and rethink my position in terms of how I felt about this. And so maybe I'll change my mind and say I guess maybe I do have mixed feelings about it. If I'm being fair, I just thought there was far more complexity to Zod. I thought you could have had him being a darker, twisted conqueror with an entire planet. And even there was one scene in here that really sort of bothered me where Sinestro was saying that he never trusted the United Planets. And then Zod said too, yeah, I never trusted them either. Except there's two differences between Sinestro's distrust of the United Planets. Sinestro's is justified because he knows they had something to do with the destruction of his giant yellow lantern. Why does Zod distrusted the United Planets for reasons which were never explained? He just did because he just doesn't trust them. So even that wasn't set up properly in my mind. It might sound like I'm nitpicking here, but no matter how I try it, I was hoping for some sophistication here on the part of Joe Casey, but instead he really did keep his promise by simplifying Zod, but he did so by oversimplifying and removing enough of the story that it didn't quite. I have a hard time buying it. I'm going to buy it. I accept it. Zod is now an evil space pirate. Okay, that's cool too. He's an evil space pirate, and he's got a gang now. He's basically like a really, really bad version of I don't know, of Blackbeard the pirate. I don't know. He's really angry. I was also disappointed in Zod that he didn't even want to know where his son was. Sinestro told him that he met his son. He didn't even want to know where his son was. Doesn't even want to tell his son that his mother died. So, okay, that tells me that Zod is really cold. He's cold and, but even that felt deeply unsatisfying to me, that he didn't even seem to care about that. And, but, whatever. I guess it's Zod, and it is what it is. He's not a particularly well-developed character, but this but this 8 issues of Zod, and this feels surprisingly one-dimensional, and he's even less developed than he ever was before. And this is a regression of character, and um, I would have loved to have seen some more obvious impact of the death of his wife, of Ursa. And you and I can infer that from his actions, but we have to infer it because it's not well told. I don't think it's actually in the story. And I got to say, overall, I'm disappointed in the art overall too. I just got to say it. The interior art has not been up to snuff through most of this series. I hate to say it. It hasn't. I haven't quite really bought into it. But overall, I think it's probably a series worth reading because this is the General Zod going forward. This is new reader friendly. It's new reader friendly. If you want to get Zod, you can pick this up. You'll understand it. It's definitely oversimplified, one-dimensional version of Zod. And I guess Joe Casey is right. That's probably what most people expect. Is, you don't want a complex Zod. And if you don't want a complex Zod that has multiple layers of evil in him, like he was before, in my opinion, and you want something more simplistic, I think this is it. But I am disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Like I said, they wanted to return him to his, more to his villainous roots, but I don't. They chose to do that by throwing out a lot of the character development that had been done with him before. I just don't know that was it's not what I would have done. I'll put it that way. Again, we're not here to play script doctor, but I think you're right. Like, Zod has become less interesting than he was, prior to this. So, you can argue whether that's a good thing or not, but that's the reality of what we got. So anyway, up next we have Birds of Prey number 12 from writer Kelly Thompson. Javier Pina, Sophie Campbell, and Gavin Goudry are the artists. Jordi Belair on colors, Clayton Cal on letters. I am really interested to hear what you have to say about this, especially when it comes to the art that we have in this particular issue.
You want me to? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with the art. There's 3 artists: Javier Pina, Sophie Campbell, and Gavin Goudry. And I think I want to be clear. I'm going to be very critical of the story because I didn't like the story, and I'm actually strongly considering removing this title from my pull list because it's just not up to snuff. But I will say this: the art. I think this art, despite the 3 artists, which normally isn't a good thing for any title, it works here. Given the premise of this story, a story that I don't like and I don't think has worked well and I think is dragged on and hasn't been particularly character driven in my opinion. And but the art works for it. And I'll start off with the good things. One of the worlds that they go to in their dimension hopping is a cartoon world, and I guess it's obviously intended to be funny, and it is. There are some funny moments. There are. A cartoon version of Big Barda. I mean, they end up fighting literally bunnies. I mean, there's definitely kind of a cartoony aspect to it, and it's fun. It has a fun element to it. So then, what are my issues with it? I guess my issues are with the lost opportunities, and in particular, and I realize that Kelly Thompson may not be familiar with the DC universe, and maybe this is a harsh criticism, but one of the things that's mentioned here, and it's kind of said as a joke, and it is kind of funny, is, oh my God, if you're in a cartoon world, how could Sin, when they dimension jump to this new world, and they're dimension jumping from dimension to dimension, and they're being chased by Maya, this other dimensional entity that wants to kill Barbara Gordon, who's lost somewhere in one of the dimensions, because sometime in the future, it was determined by Meridian, Barbara Gordon somehow accidentally kills their mother. And these 7 sisters, one sister went evil. She became this evil person called Maya. And this one surviving sister called Sila is now a member of the Birds of Prey and helping them through the multiple dimensions. Well, as they're hopping through these dimensions and they're in this cartoon world, it's basically stated, it's kind of funny that if, it's a very dangerous, Sin thinks of cartoons, well, it's very dangerous. A cartoon world's so dangerous because if we think about Hanna-Barbera cartoons, if we think of Wild Coyote and Roadrunner, for example, that's extremely violent. I mean, imagine that happening to a human being, right? Where the lost opportunity was for me was all this dimension hopping is, I wish Kelly Thompson would have been more familiar with the DC universe. She could have used Captain Carrot's universe instead of dimension hopping. Instead of having a dinosaur world, we got dimensions. We got universes in the DC, in the rich pantheon of the DC multiverse. We've got worlds. We actually have dinosaurs on multiple Earths, on various Earths. I can't remember my Earth, whether it's Earth 19 or 18 or whatever it is. But I wish we could have done that and pulled more into the. We could have got more into the DC lore here. Now, having said that, while this is fun, it still feels to me as if this was we're now 12 issues in, and they finally locate Barbara Gordon, and they find her in a cartoon castle, and she's rescued as a cartoon, and there's just and then it's revealed that Maya was the one that spoke to Megara, who was on Themyscira in the first arc, to basically lure in Sin, to possess Sin. And so Kelly Thompson is tying it in, but what does this have to do, or how this exactly ties in with the Vixen's connection to the Red and her connection and ability to time travel? We don't know. Now, it gets actually interesting. And here's the irony. While I'm very, very critical of the story, I actually think I'm getting more out of this story than your average reader. How many readers know who Xanthi is? And Constantine and read Spirit World, that 6-issue miniseries. You and I enjoyed it. We read it. But very few people did. Xanthi shows up at the end of this issue. No one knows who she is. She's out of nowhere. I think it's a bad choice. I don't mind it, but I think it's a questionable choice for a character to add the character. From a storytelling point of view, Kelly Thompson's I haven't enjoyed her use of the comic book science connecting the Red to time travel. Xanthi thinks that maybe all these girls are dead, that the birds of prey are dead. Maybe they are. Maybe this is going to involve time travel to go back in time to prevent the Seven Sisters from being killed by Maya, one of the sisters, and everything's going to be undone through time travel shenanigans, through Vixen's connection to the Red, and through Xanthi's connection to the spirit world. And there's going to be this overlap of crazy nonsense, which is rules made up at the 11th hour to create a Deus Ex Machina, so we all have a happy ending. That's all well and good. I just, it doesn't feel, this isn't just, I'm just not quite feeling it. I'm just not quite feeling it. Straight up. While this issue was fun, getting here, it felt a little bit like a chore to me, and it felt like it dragged a bit. It did. Now, having said that, again, maybe it's fair to say I have mixed feelings. I absolutely love the covers because I love DC animated world. I love the cover here. It's almost like a version of a Scotty Young cover. I think it's really awesome. And there's like the variant covers here are pretty cool too, where they show where they show like the DC versions, and then the younger version counterparts. And by the way, instead of having this cartoon world, they could have went to there's that one Earth where every one of the characters were in Grant Morrison's Multiversity, where all of them look like little pop-ups. I forget what Earth that is, but again, it's another missed opportunity of incorporating the DC universe that I really thought was missed here. But in any event, not bad. Just I guess it feels like this thing is just not. This is a story that doesn't want to end, and maybe it was the mood I was in when I was reading it, but I was a little disappointed in it. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's Kelly Thompson. I think she's a fantastic writer. I think she has great ideas. I do take your point that maybe she's not as familiar with the DC universe as she could be, and instead of using, cartoon world, she could have used, other worlds that already exist. I don't really mind that. I'm not gonna necessarily falter for that. My biggest issue with the series, that has been throughout, is the art, and specifically the way they're choosing to color it. And I think the way it's being, the way the color palette that they're choosing is based on the fact that this is the style of art. And I'll point specifically to the cartoon pages here, like it's chibi style, like if you're familiar with that, CHIBI, which is sort of this sort of youthful anime style, if you will, certainly manga influenced. They don't have any noses, and they're all sort of round and cutesy and what have you. And I really enjoy. I really enjoyed the. Like, I had a big smile on my face um, as I was reading those pages because it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to see these cartoon versions of these characters. I really enjoyed it. But what it does is it shines a light on, and the colors are much brighter as well. And even though it's sort of silly and sort of humorous and whatever, um, it sort of shines a light on the fact that the how much I've disliked the other art that we've had throughout the series. I just personally have not cared for the choices that they've made when it's come to the art style, and it makes me realize, like, okay, even in the case where this is supposed to be a funny issue, and it is with the bunnies and cartoon versions of the characters, the stakes are still there. The stakes are still high, and I feel that as I'm reading this issue, but by having this completely different style of art, and then contrasting that against the art that we've had for the most of the series, in my mind, all you're doing is really showing, I don't want to say how bad, but just how the art style that they've chosen to use from the majority of the series is sort of bringing the whole story down in terms of it just feeling very morose and very drab. That's the word I would use to describe the art. It's very drab and has been throughout. I think that, I mean, the whole point of having, great art in a comic book is to elevate the story. And instead of doing that, it's doing, like I said, the exact opposite. So it really bothers me that the art has been as poorly serving the story as it has been, because I think that there are interesting ideas that Kelly Thompson is exploring here. Now, when it comes to using Xanthi, I mean, yes and no, right? Like, I don't know that we can criticize her for not necessarily using other worlds that might work better. Like you specifically mentioned Captain Carrot world. But there's a lot of people that don't know the Captain Carrot world. But then she uses Xanthi, and we say, well, she shouldn't be using Xanthi because people don't know Xanthi. I mean, people are never going to know Xanthi unless she's being put in other books. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. We did read the Alyssa Wong series, and we did enjoy it, and that might make us a little bit of outliers, but I think you got to just continue to use the characters that are there. I was excited to see Xanthi. If she's never used, then nobody's ever going to find out. Basically what I'm saying is, at some point, every comic is going to be somebody's, or every time a character shows up, that could be the first time somebody's being exposed to the character. I don't know that you want to shy away from using those characters, because then again, nobody's ever going to learn who they are. So, but I do, I do take your point. But at the same time, I think it worked really well. I like Meridian there. I like the interaction, the banter back and forth with Meridian and Zealot. So, again, there's a lot to like in this series. But man, I keep thinking, if they just had like an artist whose line work lent itself to being brightly colored and making it feel more traditionally superheroic. I talk about that all the time, how if you get bright colors in a story, it really sells the feeling of it having that timeless superhero feel. And this has been doing the exact opposite in my mind. It's felt drab. I don't think it's been doing the series any favors at all. And I just question why. Like, why DC has chosen to use the style of art that they've used so far in this series. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. So
yeah, it's curious. It's interesting that you have the art has been more bothersome to you than me, because I really liked it at the beginning. The story's falling apart for me a little bit more so than you, and yet, despite both our misgivings for different reasons, this does seem to be, to Kelly Thompson's credit, let's give her some credit where it's due. It seems to be one of the better sellers for DC. It does seem to resonate. Its sales seem to be very consistent, And so it would appear, at least from a sales perspective, probably more than a few people would disagree with our opinions as to this title on both an artistic and a storytelling side. So I find that interesting, and I'm pleased because this type of fun, obviously, if people like the art and they like the fun and they're on board. We're 12 issues in and with no ending in sight to this story, and yet people remain on board. At least they were up to issue 11 in terms of sales. This was right in the mid range of sales, from what I could tell when I looked at the sales charts for June. But in any event, just an observation.
Yeah, it's again, I just it could be better. The ideas, the ideas, the rotating cast for Birds of Prey. Like, there's a lot to like here, but it's fallen apart in the execution. It's sort of a theme this week, if you will, and I can't I can't help but think, right? Um, is it so different than when we had Convergence? Right? Remember Convergence when DC was moving offices from New York to Burbank? Interestingly enough, Marie Javins was in charge of that whole
Wow.
event while things weren't, because it did take months, and so they took a bunch
Well,
of
two
separate
months.
creators.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, took 2 months. They took all creators weren't working on anything else, and they had them work on Convergence, and then they sort of cut and pasted that in place. And by all accounts, yes,
Yeah.
the books came out on time. Yes, the trains were running on time or whatever, but it wasn't really that memorable. I mean, other than, I don't think any of those books are worth the paper they're printed on, except for the one that's the first appearance of Jonathan
John
Kent,
Kent.
and
Yeah.
the Lois and Clark book
Yeah.
that Dan Jurgens wrote. But other than that, yeah, they're all forgotten. You can
Yeah.
find them in quarter bin, not even dollar bins, quarter bins.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
that was all in service of, hey, we have to do it this way because we're going to be moving offices, and we just won't have the bandwidth to do that and put out books at the same time. And so you sort of think right now, we have this all-in initiative that's coming later this year. We have this absolute universe that's coming later this year. We've seen the names, we've seen the talent, big names, big talent. That's what people are working on, and we're almost in like this lame duck period where the stuff that's coming out now doesn't feel like it's quite up to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And you just wonder, is it because the focus for so long has been on um, what's to come, which
Yeah.
I get it. You want what's to come to be exciting, and they're pushing it and marketing it and everything. But like you don't like to see any substandard product come out when something better's coming along. Don't alienate your readers right before you want them to jump on board a
Yeah.
new thing, if you will. So
I will
anyway,
say your Convergence example. I was not a fan of Convergence at all. So much so that I think these issues are substantially better than anything I read in Convergence. I just want to say that. But I understand the point you're trying to make. I absolutely do.
yeah.
But I was not a fan of Convergence.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody was a fan of
Yeah.
Convergence. Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. I mean but again, it did have potential. Not to get off on a tangent, it did have some
Yeah.
potential. I can't even remember the main villain's name now, but he did
Yeah.
have some potential. He's sort of gone and forgotten and what have you.
It was
But
bad. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, up next, Blue Beetle number 11, final issue of the series. Josh Trujillo, writer; Adrian Gutierrez, artist; Will Quintana on colors; Lucas Catoni on letters. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, this looks like this is the final issue of Blue Beetle, and essentially, I'll be honest, I wasn't even I didn't think this issue was needed. To be honest, I thought issue 10 ended things fine for me. But this sort of like puts like the cherry on top of the dessert. So if you've been enjoying Blue Beetle, and you and I have been, we've been sort of enjoying it. We've been, there's a couple issues there. I mean, I think this suffered a little bit from pacing, and the art made it like some of the sequences difficult to figure out what was going on. At least for me throughout this series. But for the most part, I've enjoyed what Josh Trujillo has done as a writer in terms of sort of sort of establishing a new status quo and basically a new mythology for the Blue Beetle with the different beetles, which I admit, even now I can't remember the names of all the different beetles, the yellow and the green one and the purple one or whatever it is. But uh, what what is it? What is what has been established at least is there is a Bible now, so that for future adventures of Blue Beetle, uh, we got a new status quo, and we do have some more adventures and so much more potential now with the mythology of Blue Beetle that involves more than just Ted Cord and Jaime Reyes, but also all the scarabs and the red scarab and everything, and Victoria Cord, and this entire issue set basically it does a number of things. We find out that Uli, who's a member of the Horizon decide that they're going to stay in Palmyra City, despite the fact that their lives the Horizon are an alien race that were living in Palmyra City. Their lives became in danger through the machinations of the various bad guys that were in this series, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they've decided they're going to stay. Uli expresses her attraction to Jaime Reyes in this issue. Jaime's family returns, and people will, especially people who are fans of the movie, even though the movie's a different continuity, they'll be glad that, because at heart, Blue Beetle is a family. It's a if ever there is a superhero that has a family and that family bond is integral to the character, it's Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. Victoria Cord gets her comeuppance. There was a really good character development I thought Trullo did with Ted Cord and his sister Victoria Cord. Victoria Cord was kind of she attempted to kill I think the character Brenda Del Vecchio in a previous issue. She's arrested for that, and her own brother is in favor of that, because despite the fact that he loves and cares for his sister, and the fact that Victoria, we know, cares for him, even though she's kind of sociopathic, it was revealed one issue she was actually sorrowful when the blood scarab actually almost killed her brother. Victoria Cord, I thought Trullo did a really good job making Victoria Cord an interesting character. She's a complex character. As a matter of fact, at the end of this issue, what I really like is Victoria Cord expresses her desire to protect humanity from the scarabs, and it actually seems like Victoria Cord would be right in keeping there with Amanda Waller. I'm surprised that Victoria Cord is not working with Amanda Waller, because it actually is a good origin story for why Victoria is probably in favor of what Amanda Waller's doing, quite frankly. So I thought that was interesting, and yet there's no connection with that main storyline. Girl 13 shows up, and along with Madame Xanadu, they end up resurrecting the blood scarab. And that's all you know. And there's talk of a prophecy of something else going to be happening, but that's all left up in the air as this sort of series ends and draws to a close, reestablishing a new status quo for the Blue Beetle. And I think in a good way. This ends at 11 issues. I think it does. So much happened. The creative team crammed so much story into 11 issues that at times that may have been part of the problem, to be blunt. But more than one of the issues I had to read 2-3 times, and I still maybe didn't quite catch on what was going on. But the fact is that there was something that kept pulling me back. I can rant like the best of them when I don't like a series. I like this series, even though it challenged me at times and frustrated me at times. I did ultimately end up enjoying it, and I would recommend it for Blue Beetle fans. In fact, this is a must-read. Straight up must read for Blue Beetle fans, because this evolves so much in the mythology moving forward, especially with all the additional players and the characters that it adds. And there was good character moments here, and there was romance, betrayal, love, action. This gives my recommendation overall. If I had to rate this out of 10, I'd give this a 6.5 out of 10 for 11 issues. So buying this as a trade, hopefully this will be collected as an 11 issue trade and be reduced in price to pull in potential new readers. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right in terms of, boy, did they cram a lot of story in this series throughout. No question. Yeah, there was just a lot in this series the entire time. So, is that a good thing? Well, yes and no. It gives a chance to give Blue Beetle fans and fans of Jaime, a lot to dig into over the course of the series. But the other thing that it did is it sort of allowed for a lot of chaos. is what I would say. Like a very very chaotic series at times, um, which I think lent the art also by Adrian Gutierrez sort of, you know, leaned that direction as well, where it just felt a little chaotic at times. You know, I've talked ad nauseum at this point about the whole ink splatter style that he used throughout the series that I wasn't a particular big fan of. Um, and so, all that being said, it's clear that Joshua Trujillo has a very good understanding of who Jaime Reyes is, and who the Blue Beetle is, not just inherently, but in terms of, you know, his relationship with his family, who he is growing as a character. And I keep thinking back to when I had Josh on before the very first issue of the limited series that preceded this, and him talking about wanting to evolve Jaime, to grow the character, because ever since he had, you know, shown up in Infinite Crisis way back when, he'd been this teenager that he was the hero that always would sort of make mistakes because he was inexperienced. And you know, we're talking that's going on 20 years ago now, and he's still making those same mistakes. He hasn't evolved as a character. This is evolution, you know, as much as it was sort of crammed in and chaotic, and the art style sort of lent itself to that feeling. It is character growth and character development, and I love where we end up at the end of the series. Jaime's going to be going to college. You know, which at the beginning of the series, part of the reason he moved away from Palmera City is because he didn't feel ready, didn't get into the school he wanted to go and, you know, go to, and all that. So he's moving along as a character. He's growing. We've seen him be a leader. We've seen him, you know, fight for the horizon. We've seen him fight against his own scarab, fight against Kajida, who wanted to, you know, kill, and he said no, that's not the way. So he clearly is maturing as an individual, and he's growing as a character. And so I love where everything is, not just for him, but for his family, for the supporting cast, and what have you. So it feels like, man, it's just getting good. It's just getting to a point where I'm really curious what comes next, and maybe we can sort of take a breath and slow down, and it doesn't have to be one thing after another thrown at Jaime. We can have a little bit more, you know, deliberate character development. Oh, but it's over. So if it does come back at some point, I would wish that if Adrian Gutierrez comes back, he would go back to that initial art style he had, which was less chaotic, and I feel like suited the story better. Or maybe we give a different artist a chance here. But I really like where Jaime's at right here, so much so that I kind of wish this was still continuing, but I wouldn't want to see it continue with the same art style. So I'm sort of okay with it ending. But I wonder where we might see more of, you know, Jaime next, and has been hinted throughout my absolute and all in interviews from San Diego Comic-Con, to bring that up again. Lots more titles that haven't been announced that are going to be coming in November and December and January. So, could there be another Blue Beetle? What would an absolute Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle? It sort of feels like he wouldn't be the right choice. Like they've done all this evolution and growth for the character to only be sort of going backwards in a way, to have him be so isolated. So I don't necessarily think he'd be a good choice for absolute, but I do want to see this story continue in some way, and I hope it's Trujillo, because I think he's got him. He's got Jaime in a really great spot. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right. Up next, we have Absolute Power issue number 2. This is the main Absolute Power event series, written by Mark Waid. Dan Mora is the artist. Colors are by Alejandro Sanchez. Letters by Ariana Mayer. Give us your thoughts on this.
Well, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this issue. This was my favorite of the week. I'm not going to hold suspense. This was this week. I enjoyed this the most. That doesn't mean that this was absolutely spectacular, but I do want to give Mark Waid and Dan Mora amazing on the art. Sanchez amazing on the colors. I enjoyed this. Mark Waid worked a lot of interesting plot threads into this that he pretty much needed to. basically we're dropping right into the action. Amanda Waller has already captured 80% of the superhumans on the planet. The 20% that are still missing are, unfortunately for Amanda Waller, the big guns: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and essentially they're all at the Fortress of Solitude, and where they're planning and scheming how to take down Waller. Meantime, Waller is. She sends the Dreamer and Brainiac Queen to go along with John Kent, John Kent, Superboy / Superman, to go to the Fortress of Solitude and essentially attack the heroes. And this is an action-packed issue. This really was. This was I enjoyed this. Like, everything from, Amanda Waller giving instructions to them. There was one particular conversation that stood out to me that I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on. Amanda Waller's talking. Failsafe says to Amanda Waller, "Well, if we want to capture the other 20% of all these big gun heroes, why don't we just capture their loved ones and set them up and lure them out into the open by kidnapping their loved ones?" And then Amanda Waller goes out of her way to say, "No, we're not going to do that. Well, our job is to protect the citizens, and we're not going to do that. I'm not a sociopath," she says. And I'm thinking, are you sure you're not a sociopath, Amanda Waller? My good friend Jace insists that you are a sociopath. Because this is, I was stunned to hear Amanda Waller say that, and I was more stunned to see, Dreamer at this point. The way that Dan Moore illustrates Dreamer is as Dreamer almost looks indifferent. She's lost her emotion. When I look, and I think that's intentional. I think Dreamer is so lost in her own mind. She hates what she has to do. She's sort of disassociated from the orders that Waller is giving her, and Waller, wanting to send, and we're not going to attack we're not going to do anything to harm the citizens. Our job is to protect, and yet. I'm still having a hard time buying into this. Waller, I see her as someone who very clearly wants to. I can't believe for one moment that she wouldn't entertain luring the heroes out with their loved ones, because she could probably, her indifference to human life, I think, has been shown time and time and time again. And in any event, I just thought that was a little bit odd, but anyways, I accept it. Some really good moments occurred in the Fortress of Solitude. I loved how Nightwing stepped up to the plate. Wonder Woman, Mark Waid has admitted that he doesn't have he could never write. Mark Waid has said he could never write Wonder Woman because he doesn't have any ideas for her character, and I could tell that because he doesn't have anything for Wonder Woman useful to do here. Nor does Tom King either, as we'll discover next week in Wonder Woman issue 11. But that's besides the point. Wonder Woman here decides that the heroes need a captain. Wonder Woman, of course, doesn't volunteer to be a captain, of course, because why would she? She's Wonder Woman. She doesn't have any skill sets in that regard, apparently. But everybody wants to be captain. Batman wants to be captain. Mr. Terrific wants to be captain. Aquaman, who's the king of Atlantis, who at least Mark Waid thinks is king of Atlantis, who actually Aquaman isn't. But that's besides the point again. He wants to be king. But Nightwing steps up to the plate. And I love the fact that Mark Waid has given tacit acknowledgement to the fact that nobody thinks the Titans have stepped up to the plate as the Justice League. To see Nightwing step up and to give a speech and inspire the heroes, to draw them in and to give orders and to break them up into teams. So Batman, he directs Batman to go off to find the Mother Box, and he directs Wonder Woman Damian to find the prison wherever that might be located. He directs Black Canary, Cassandra Cain, and Zealot and the Birds of Prey basically to go find Green Arrow and handle him. He directs Superman, Wonder Girl, and Zatanna to go out to the multiverse to find help. So he's really stepping up to the plate, and Batman says, "That's my boy." And it's some really good moments here, some character moments there. And by this point, we're only a third of the way through the comic. That's what's awesome. and the action scenes, just then they're attacked. Brainiac Queen attacks the Fortress of Solitude. They have this big action sequence, and it ultimately culminates with Dreamer sort of seemingly sacrificing herself to save Superman from the clutches of the Brainiac Queen, as most of the heroes manage to escape. There's a great scene where Brainiac Queen she's fascinated by the bottle city of Kandor, but they smash it down, and all the Kandorians fly out of the bottle city of Kandor, and all these small little super Kryptonians, infect infect the Brainiac Queen, and it's a lot of cool stuff happens. If I have some nitpicks there, I have some nitpicks on the art in particular. There are some action sequences. I wish this issue was 20. This issue could have been 20 pages longer and more time spent on the action sequences. I wish that's what would have happened. I would have loved to have seen, like, for example, when the Kandorians were released from the Bottle City, I would have loved I would have loved to have seen more of a cool sequence showing the Kandorians fly out and infecting the Brainiac Queen. Instead, it was they could only fit so much on the page, and even the Flash and all the Justice League heroes have like new armor on that was created for them by the machines in the fortress. And anyways, just some really good moments, some great dialogue. Dreamer's really coming into her own, a real kick-ass character. Nicole Maines did a great job developing her, and Mark Waid continues that development here. I don't think Dreamer's dead, but the sacrifice that she appears to make is pretty epic. And I just, overall, I thought this issue was very good. This really, really raised the stakes, and this was a lot of fun. And so that's why I said there's really a no-brainer for me in terms of my pick of the week. This is it. And some interesting revelations or some discoveries by Green Arrow at the end of the issue as well. So I really enjoyed this issue. What about yourself?
Yes and no. I mean, that moment that you mentioned, we got to start off with that. Amanda Waller saying, "I'm no psychopath," and the panel immediately, following, they're actually a sociopath, is what she says. And in that panel, she says sociopath. You see Dreamer and even Failsafe looking at each other like, "Yeah, you are," and we all know it. Yeah, stupid idiot. So yeah, like you are, Waller, you are, and you always have been, and apparently you always will be. So yeah, pretty interesting. But to your point about the action scenes, I don't disagree with you that this issue could have done with a few more pages. To be honest, I think having a few more pages would have allowed the story to breathe a little bit more. And we just would have had a little bit better idea, if you will, of what exactly happened, because that's the thing. Like when Waller sends a Brainiac Queen and it's this full frontal assault on the Fortress of Solitude, everything starts happening so quickly. Everything starts happening so quickly that it's almost hard to keep track of what's happening in the book, which again makes it a little bit just a little bit hard to keep track of. So I thought that as clean as Dan Mora's art is, I've never had a harder time following what was happening in the story visually with Dan Mora art than I did in this particular issue. And if I look at each individual panel, there's nothing I can point to in any individual panel where I go, yeah, he didn't do that well or didn't do that. No, it's all up to his usual level of quality. But it's just that so much is happening so fast that it's easy to miss things, and it just feels chaotic. And maybe that's purposeful. Maybe that's how we're supposed to feel. But I go back to something that Mark Waid said, which is he wants these heroes to feel like they're constantly in danger, like there's a real threat. As much as he says, "Hey, we get it. These are superhero comics. They're going to get their powers back." But at the end of the day, he's doing a great job of making us feel the threat level that they're experiencing. So I agree with you. Great to see Nightwing step up. I don't know that I agree with you in terms of Wonder Woman for Mark. I mean, Mark Waid has said he doesn't have a great handle on Wonder Woman, whatever. I completely disagree with you in the way Tom King's handling Wonder Woman, but that's an argument for next week. But yeah, this did. I think this issue did what Mark Waid wanted it to do, which is the danger feels elevated. The heroes are on the run. It's clear that Waller has the upper hand. Well, at the same time, he's doing a good job of making it apparent that she's not as in control as you might think. And we've seen that in some other tie-ins, the Task Force 7 series, where the Mazo robots aren't completely under her control. You know, they're making mistakes and what have you. So I would say that the stress of this attack by Waller, it's starting to show that she's fraying at the edges a little bit. So that what might happen and how that might ultimately lead to her failure, I guess, remains to be seen. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how the heroes eventually defeat her, and will it be Amanda Waller's hubris that eventually defeats her, or will it be some sort of wet wipe that you use to, clean yourself up after a bad night of Thai food? Because we all know about my theory on Amanda Waller being basically a giant dark side poop. Uh, we'll see how that all plays out. Which, I guess that was sort of shot down a little bit while I was at San Diego Comic-Con, because I think on one of the panels, Scott Snyder sort of intimated that the secret that Darkseid discovers has to do with the anti-life equation. But could Waller be the anti-life equation personified? Perhaps. All right, well, let's move on. We have a new Gotham City Sirens issue number 1, written by Leah Williams. Art is by Matteo Loli. Colors by Triona Farrell. Letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. Yeah, so I sort of have mixed feelings about this as well. The big bad turns out to be Punchline. Not particularly interesting. I don't find Punchline to be a particularly interesting character. That being said, the setup and what's going on here seems interesting. Seems like some people are being drugged through some energy drink that there's high demand for, to the point where there's a riot when new flavors are released at a particular convenience store. And it does all make sense in terms of being something that Punchline would do. We know she has a background in chemistry, ties to the Joker and what have you. And it is the typical Gotham City Sirens that you would expect. We have Poison Ivy, we have Harley Quinn, we have Catwoman, White Rabbit shows up. She's an interesting character. She has potential there. But ultimately, not dissimilarly, actually, from the big problem that I have with Birds of Prey, this art is awful. It's awful. The backgrounds are non-existent. The body proportions are just wonky. It's not the first time we've seen DC use artists that use this style. It's clearly all done digitally, but it's just done poorly. It's not like, if you're going to work digitally, you have every opportunity to have a very clean style. And there's no reason. Leave it on that page, Rocky. Go back. Now go back. Put it back on Punchline, because I'm going to talk about that page in a second. But you have every opportunity to have a very clean style, and have it be dynamic, and you can use thin line weights, and you can really play around with your page layouts in terms of panels and make it exciting. This is the exact opposite of that. Again, super light on the backgrounds, very boring. A lot of times the backgrounds it's just plain. There's no background at all. It's just a color. There's these cybernetic buffalo or bison that are running throughout the issue, and many times when they're on a panel, all you get in the background is just green, yellow, blue. It's awful. It feels lazy. It feels incomplete, and what have you. No, go back to the
No, I know.
Punchline.
I know. I'm just showing the other pages too. Go ahead.
Look,
Sorry.
look at her leg. So she has
I know.
toothpick legs. First of all, second of all, somehow her left leg,
Yeah.
it's thicker at the bottom, to the point the bottom of her left leg is
Yeah.
thicker than her thigh.
Yeah.
What in God's name is this
Yeah.
artist doing?
Yeah.
It looks awful. It pulls you out of the story. Like it makes there's no shape to her body. she's supposed to be this, sexy, version of the Joker, or Joker sidekick or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but she barely has an intimation of a waist, no shape on her arms, and her legs are just like, they look like two popsicle sticks. Like
Yeah.
that left leg, uh, that's
Uh,
inexcusable. It's inexcusable. It's twice as thick as her right leg, and it's thicker than her thigh, and that's supposed to be her. Like I don't. Oh my god! How does that get printed in a DC comic? How is that a professional comic artist? It's just it's just awful. It's just
yeah.
awful. So I couldn't enjoy this. The art throughout was just atrocious, and I literally I couldn't enjoy it. I think there's potential, um, but I couldn't help but compare this to the previous Gotham City Sirens series that we've had, or kept thinking back to the first Harley Quinn series that was sort of the prelude to the Gotham City Sirens. The one that was, it Terry Dodson on art on that? I think it was.
There.
Or
What the?
maybe it was the first Harley Quinn's very first solo series. Was it Carl Kessel? I can't remember who it
No,
was.
no, it was Dodson. The Dodsons did the interior art for
For the very,
for.
like before the New 52 Harley Quinn.
That's right. Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
Dodsons. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it was Carl Kiesel that wrote it.
Carl Kessel. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I go back to that, like how good that art was and how
Yeah.
good that series was, and that series directly led into Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah.
Um, and that was so good. It was so good, and I'm not, even when I read that, even at that time, and still now, I wasn't a particular fan of Harley Quinn. Still
Hmm.
not. Wasn't a particular fan of Poison Ivy or Catwoman, but it was quality. It was a technically well put together comic, and I could appreciate that. And the story was relatively interesting, especially for being characters that I didn't really have much of an investment in. You could make the argument that I have a little more investment in those characters now. That might be true, or it might not, but I can't enjoy this comic because technically it's extremely poorly put together.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
and I, it's hard for me to even say. I mean, I think the pacing, I can pretty confidently say the pacing is well done. You get a decent chunk of story, and it feels like it flows pretty well. But in terms of kind of the idea, I guess it's sort of interesting, but it's so hard for me to like judge it because the art is so substandard. I feel like I can't fairly and objectively judge the story that Leah Williams is starting to tell here, because the art was just so distracting, because it just felt like it was so bad. Um, the color work is okay. It's not great. Um, I guess you'd say it's the best thing about the art. The best thing about the visual storytelling is the colors, and the colors are average at best. That's how bad the line work is. That's how bad the storytelling as well. It's not just the style. It's not just the anatomy, but even I found myself having to go back repeatedly to the previous panel to try to understand what was going on. Just I can't remember art this bad on a DC book since probably Future State Gotham way back, um, like the original, not even the ongoing, but like the original 2-issue series, um,
Yeah.
that was, and that was black and white and sort of purposefully heavily manga influenced, and so a little bit of a subjective dislike of that art for me. This is just bad. I mean, again, I look at that last page. I don't know how you look at that last page and look at those two popsicle stick legs
Yeah.
and are not like offended by this art. Like,
Yeah.
I'm no artist, and I feel like I could have done better. Like,
Yeah.
like explain to me that leg. How is the left leg twice as thick as the right leg, and how is her calf thicker than her thigh? She have elephantitis? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like again, I hate to disparage anybody, but this art is not up to the standards of a professional comic artist. It's just not. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that and rant over. But
Yeah.
my God,
Wow. Yeah.
this art, it just I'm sorry, I can't. I gotta call
Well,
a spade, man.
yeah.
This art is awful.
Well, fair enough. I don't feel so bad being. I can be pretty harsh too, but that's definitely one of your more harsh reviews, my friend. But let me just say this: I will just to add to your comments about the art. The cover A is by Rachel and Terry Dodson, and they did the interiors for Harley Quinn's first series, and it's it and they used to do all the interior. Now they're just relegated to doing cover art, and they're so popular now that that's all they can make a living just doing cover art, and they very rarely do interior work. They have their own creator own that they did. I forget the name of it, which is quite good.
Adventure
But
Man.
thank you, Adventure Man. It's excellent. The interior art's fantastic. I love it, and I will say that there is. I'm not buying this series, but I had to buy this series because Julian March is one of my I buy his portfolios at Comic Cons, and I'm buying the connecting covers, and this cover A for cover I think it's C or D. Julian March draws Poison Ivy, and all the issues together are going to be Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman, and the final issue is Punchline, I think, and it's going to be connecting covers. So I'm getting it for those connecting covers. But I find it ironic that Julian March was the interior artist for the last time there was a Gotham City Sirens series written by Paul Dini. The interior artist was Julian March, which this is his cover. And I just and I say that to echo your criticism of the art on the inside. The whole central premise, or at least, okay, I'm going to sound like a Pyrian fanboy here, but this is Gotham City Sirens. Please, God, tell me DC understands that the reason why most people are going to be buying this comic has nothing to do with the quality of the story. Okay, you've got the sexiest woman, arguably the sexiest woman in DC Comics in this, and an up and coming sexy woman in Punchline. If anything, this should be, this should be all kinds of breast TNA. Come on, and to have the quality of art that is in the interior here is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable. Shame on you, DC. Now, I won't say anything more about the art. I think you've done more than adequate job of talking about that. I will talk about the
I mean,
story.
you clearly noticed. This is not just me. You clearly
Oh no, I
noticed
know
how
that.
awful it was. How could you
Oh yeah,
not?
no. Hey man, I'm just trying to be fair. Okay, I don't want to. I just want to talk about the story a little bit. The story itself by Leigh Williams is actually. I got mixed feelings about it, but the idea that somebody is using real human beings as avatars in a video game that seem to be controlled by Punchline is it's got potential there, and how it's mixed in with this exo punch drink that is some sort of drug. So there's some plot line there that has some potential to be interesting, and how Poison Ivy gets involved in analyzing the punch drink, and how Catwoman is her deductive skills to maybe figure out who's behind all this, who's using these humans as avatars, and it ends up being Punchline is interesting. Punchline is still, I think, a character that I think DC sort of lost their opportunity to make her interesting. She started off as a character that was utilizing social media to manipulate the media and managed to successfully get away with murder when she was sort of Joker's underling, and then she became a mobster. A glorified someone who wanted to be a mobster under Teenie Howard in the Catwoman run, and now she suddenly wants to be a video game mastermind, and somehow she thinks she's not going to get caught here. I mean, it's interesting. I suppose I'm not, but the story itself doesn't really grab me. But it still has some potential here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to add this to my pull list beyond. It's a cover buy for me. Straight up, it's a cover buy. The story is this needed to be. This is one thing. Tits and ass. That's what this needs to be. This is tits and ass. If the story is good, that's a bonus. But number one priority for a comic like this, okay, is gorgeous TNA. Bottom line, this doesn't have it. and some of the covers do, and I'll have some cover buys. So yeah, I bitch about variant covers. Congratulations, DC, you sucked me in on some covers because I love Guillaume March, but this is absolutely a miss in terms of interior art. Shame on DC for doing this. You do not publish something like this if you don't have a top grade A artist as a job. You don't. This is not something where you give an up and coming artist an opportunity here, because looking at this artist, anybody could tell. I agree with you. No backgrounds. No. What are you? What the hell are they doing? This is just. This is, like I say, this is insane. But anyways, see now you don't have to feel so bad. I bitched as much as you did.
Well, what I was saying before might this might be a situation where, yeah, maybe they would have gotten a better artist, but they're using them all on the all-in stuff. They're using them all on, absolute power and or absolute universe and what have you. So they're sort of stuck, if you will, using what they have. So anyway, yeah, at least I wasn't the only one. Because I was kind of like, man, am I being overly harsh? Is this art is not as bad as I think? Like that's what I was thinking. Like maybe it's just me. I don't. But then we got to that last page, and I was like, no, I'm right. Look at that leg.
It's awful.
Like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. I stared at that leg for like 5 minutes trying to understand. Like, is she moving the leg forward? Is that like no? It looks like she's wearing bell bottoms when she's. It's just her leg. Anyway, I need to move on. I need to let it go. All right. Up next, we have My Adventures of Superman, issue number 3, written by Josie Campbell, Pablo M. Collar on art, Nick Filardi on colors, letters by Lucas Gattoni. I continue to love this series. It really reminds me of how much I love the cartoon. The cartoon, I think, is just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's just great. It's just great. I know you're not a big fan of Lois and Jimmy knowing Clark's secret identity and that sort of thing, but man, I just love it.
Yeah.
I think it's so fun. I love this leans into the innocent young Clark who's inexperienced Superman and sort of learning the ropes. It's also a younger Ma and Pa Kent that show up here to surprise Clark for the holidays. That's a lot of fun. The little twists and things that are different with familiar characters like Slade Wilson and familiar Superman ideas like Cadmus Project and Amazo robots that are all sort of tweaked and whatever. It's just, it has this youthful feel. It has this fresh feel. I feel like I can be surprised. It's not a Superman story that, like so many Superman stories I read is like, oh, well, yeah, we've kind of been there and done this before, which you can understand. It's hard when a character's been around for, 80 plus years to come up with a wholly original idea, which is part of the reason I'm so excited for Absolute Superman. But yeah, this is just really good. And the art is exactly the style of the cartoon. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying this. Like reading this makes me want to go back and rewatch the episodes of the cartoon. So I think that says it all when it comes to the quality of this story. So, what are your thoughts on it? Has it grown on you yet?
It has. I just want to make a quick comment. It doesn't bother you that Amanda Waller's in this comic? Well, this version of Amanda Waller?
She's become so ubiquitous. She really has. That, and at least this version hasn't shown herself to be, completely despicable yet.
Not yet, anyway.
But yeah. Don't poke the bear, man.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you made an allusion to Absolute Superman. This is very much the opposite of that. What's great about this is a lot of times I think that a lot of us longtime readers of comic books, we forget that to new readers of comics, they can be a little bit inaccessible, or it can feel a little bit overwhelming. Even reading Superman, because even you read mainstream Superman, there's a lot of continuity there you'd be forgiven. Anybody, any new potential new comic book reader would be forgiven if they were lost reading a William Josh Williamson's random issue of Superman, because there's a lot of history and continuity there. The great thing about my adventures with Superman is that you can enjoy it by doing the easiest thing in the world, just enjoying the cartoons. This is Superman at his purest in terms of his love for his family, being raised well, two wonderful parents, young parents, a love life with Lois Lane. It's a little different. There's slight tweaks to the mythology, as there always is when you get different iterations, especially with the cartoon aspect of Superman. But it works. It's Superman at its heart and at his purest. And there's humor here. There's friendship. There is adventure. It's action packed. The art's really good. It is very consistent with the cartoon. Now, I will say that I did end up catching one episode cartoon just the other day, and it's still not my cup of tea. I'm still a fan of the Superman animated, but this is growing on me, and it's one of those things. Even my daughter, who's very picky, she stared at the TV longer than 3 minutes, so that's a good sign. So he knows I would love if she's going to become a fan of this show at some point. But in any event, yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's good. It's if you're into this, if you want a very straightforward story, this is very well paced. It's action packed. It's well done, and the fact, actually, I think Amanda Waller's presence in this actually, I think, elevates the story a little bit for me, to be honest with you, which is why I asked you about Amanda Waller, because when I saw her pop up at the end, I sort of like that there's a little bit of a sophistication to the storytelling here that I think Josie Campbell's done a good job of sort of incorporating. And so I'm looking forward to actually see how she addresses this and how this sort of resolves, and how, if Amanda Waller's character is going to get darker before this series is over, and if there's any indirect influence from Absolute Power, which I doubt. It's a completely different continuity, but we shall see.
By darker, we mean more evil, not skin
That's
color.
right. Non-utter skin color. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have Shazam number 14, also from writer Josie Campbell, Emanuela Lupacchino on art, Trish Mulvihill on colors, Troy Petrie on letters. We get a lot of Freddy in this issue. Captain Marvel Jr. In previous iterations. And then we get a lot of back and forth between Billy and Mary, and some bickering back and forth between Billy and the captain himself. So I'm not sure what to think. I don't know where Josie Campbell is going with this. You know, we talked before about how interesting it is and what a departure it is to have Billy and Captain be like two different beings, two different entities that are having different thoughts, different personalities. It's such a different take on anything we've seen before for Captain Marvel or for Shazam. So I like that. I like that I don't know where it's going. And I love the Emanuela Lupacchino art. I think she's only getting better. Her art sometimes does tend to be a little on the loose side, but apparently she's got enough time to complete her issues or what have you, because the art here is very, very good. The other thing that I love about Josie Campbell is I feel like she has a very good handle on the voices of these characters. Like they feel like, as they're speaking, dialogue, word choice, vocabulary, what have you, they feel like they're the appropriate age. They feel like they're, talking the way I expect them to talk, for lack of a better way to put it. And that's not always the case. Sometimes they writers write Billy as though he's speaking as an adult. And to that point, to go back to talking about Lupacchino's art, I think she does a good job of drawing these characters to look rather youthful as well, because that's, again, not always the case. So yeah, there's a lot to like here, and I'm really enjoying this series. So, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this actually, I'm gonna have to reread this again. My review is not going to be as detailed as I would normally like it to be, uh, be, uh, because I just read this once and I felt I needed to read it again, because I'm a little bit. I'm I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on, and I think I'm going to blame Absolute Power, not because I'm not enjoying what's happening in Absolute Power, but I thought Billy and Mary Marvel, I thought they were captured by, I thought they were in prison at the
Yeah,
Gomorrah prison. I
100%. They're 100% in prison. Yeah, this must be happening either before or after the events of Absolute
Yeah,
Power.
I was confused reading this, but that's on me because obviously they, Josie Campbell, to her credit, she's finishing her story as she bloody well should. And Lapacino, I've always loved her art. I first became familiar with her art when she was drawing issues of Wonder Woman, like I think 5, 6, 7 years ago. But in any event, yeah. So I actually like that Freddie Freeman. I like that his hair is they, he used to always have like dark hair, but finally it's like there's somebody who can fly who doesn't have black hair. So I like that they've actually decidedly given him a different color hair, given his own unique hairstyle. I also, it's clear here that I'm still. I find it odd that Billy's temper tantrum. He's still angry at Shazam for not revealing the secret, and he refuses to change into Shazam because he's angry at Shazam, and I'm still a little bit confused where exactly is Captain Marvel? Like where is Shazam when Billy's like he seems to be staring at him through a mirror? I'm confused. I don't understand exactly. He can call upon Shazam, but so is he in the Rock of Eternity? Where is Shazam exactly when Billy Batson is having a conversation with him in his head? I'm still confused about that. And that's on me. I guess I forget, or I'm going to have to go, because there's scenes here where he's sort of talking with himself in the mirror, and I'm just confused. And then there's the submen that Captain Marvel Jr. He's in the portal of to the with King Cole and the submen, and I'm still a little confused exactly what's going on there. But so I have to reread this. But it is I will say it's paced well. It's easy to read. I'm just a little unclear exactly what's going on. Something going on with the Rock of Eternity again. I don't know if it's me or if it's something that I'm going to be more critical of next week. When if I reread this 3 times and I'm so confused, then maybe I'll have more of a beef with Josie Campbell. But I love the art. It's beautiful art, and I'm going to be rereading it. I just wish I apologize to those listening. I wish I could give it a more appropriate review, but because I feel like I'm a little bit lost right now, and I'm going to have to reread it. That's all I have to
Yeah,
say.
I mean, I, I, I sort of feel that way also. And it has more to do, I think, than anything with just how I was saying it. It's just such an unfamiliar take on Billy, and it's always been kind of one mind, one personality, and even when he was in the adult body of Shazam or Captain Marvel, he still was sort of Billy, and now it's not, and so yeah, it just feels a little bit confusing. So. All right, up next we have The Boy Wonder, issue number 4, written and drawn by Junie Ba, colored by Chris O'Halloran, lettered by Aditya Bidikar. This series has been wildly inconsistent for me. Last issue, I think, was probably my favorite so far. Again, we have this bank robber. He's got Damien held hostage. Damien's telling him stories of his life, and that's what continues in this issue. This issue, more than any other, just felt very sort of reductive, derivative. It's Damien basically telling his origin stories, and that we've seen and we know and have heard 1,000 times. He's the son of Batman and Talia. His grandfather's Ra's al Ghul. He was trained to be the heir. Blah blah blah. Like, there's nothing. There's nothing new. There's nothing interesting. It just felt very much like, okay, if you don't know who Damian Wayne is, like, I'm gonna tell you. At this point, if you're a DC fan, to the point that you're picking up this issue called The Boy Wonder, that's about Damian Wayne, you know everything in this issue already. There's nothing new under the sun here. So it felt a little bit like, what was the point of reading this? I don't know. Very, very confusing to me. So anyway, what were your thoughts on it, Rocky?
I hate to reiterate your comments, but I felt exactly that. I want to be clear. June Bod does a good job here of telling this story of Talia al Ghul and Damian Wayne and Ra's al Ghul. So if you're for readers who've been away from comics for a while and are picking this up and they like the stylistic art, and they can really get something out of this series. Don't get me wrong. This series is very, very new reader friendly. Every issue is new reader friendly. And I think it's important that we emphasize that, because as a longtime reader, this doesn't tell me anything I don't already know. But how many people have read as many comics as you and I have? Probably comparatively few. So in fairness, the art here, it's very stylistic, and the art's very good. Okay, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I can't deny that it's got its own eclectic style. It's consistent. I think it's well paced. It reads well, even when it's exposition heavy. It's told in sort of a mythological way. It's told in a way that the story has meaning and gravitas. But it's just a story that I'm very, very familiar with, and that is the story of Damian Wayne, his journey as a young man, and whose mother also had her own conflicts and her own struggles with her father. And it's not just Damian Wayne, but it's his mother, Talia al Ghul, who also has to struggle with the issue of legacy. Because Talia's got to address the fact that she was never meant to assume the mantle even though she was the daughter of the demon, it was never hers so much to inherit. It was always going to be Ra's al Ghul is immortal and would remain immortal because of the Lazarus pit. Well, as it's slowly discovered that Ra's might in fact have an end life, well then, Damian is the heir apparent, since Batman rejected that. All of this is encapsulated. The rich history of the tale of the demon and how it involves the Batman family. It's told in this one issue, and it's told very well. And so I think that for those people, this is a really good encapsulation. What I find fascinating and interesting about this is that if I didn't know any better, I think this is almost an exact retelling of what the actual continuity is in the mainstream DC universe for the Damian and the Wayne family. It's almost identical. Now, I don't, there might be differences here and there, but for the most part, I'm surprised that Junba is telling this. It's basically retelling exactly what's in the mainstream DC universe. There's no unique take on it, and I think that's what surprises me, where I was thinking, well, what's your iteration? You've got a different style. I'm waiting for a twist. I'm waiting for your own twist on it or your own interpretation of it, but it never came. And that's fine. It's still good. It's just surprising that it wasn't different. I think what stands out more than ever is just the artistic, how he draws Ra's al Ghul, making them look like demons, and how he draws Damian when Damian has a darker side and he's exploring his Ra's al Ghul side. There's the with the use of the red ink and the lines. I think it really works well. And yeah, so it's not bad. And the coloring's all good and what have you. It's just oddly enough, it's just not it's a good story. It's just one that I've read before, is what I can say. So I can recommend, if you're a new reader and you want a good encapsulation of understanding Damian Wayne, the essence of Damian Wayne's origin, and you want to know if you want a really good synopsis of the Ra's al Ghul legacy and its relationship to Talia and Damian, who would become Damian, the son of Batman, and the relationship between the son of the demon versus son of the Bat. Pick up this just one issue, this Boy Wonder issue 4, and it's basically a self-contained issue. So it's not bad. I don't need to read it, but I'm kind of glad I did, because I got reinforced. Now I if I forgot anything about Damian Wayne, this definitely reminded me of it.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Last book we're going to talk about in detail, Batman and Robin and Howard Summer Breakdown, issue number 2. It's from Jeffrey Brown with colors by Silvana Briss. This continues to just be a really fun series, I guess we'll say. Batman, Robin, and Howard Summer Breakdown. What two different books focused on the same character, of Damian Wayne. That one, darker and dealing with a lot of the themes that have existed for Damian from the very beginning. This one, very new reader, young reader friendly in terms of, funny jokes for younger readers, easy to understand. Talia's there visiting. It throws Batman off. It throws Bruce off. It throws Damian off. Howard is sort of the outsider looking in. It's like, what's wrong with these guys? Why are they so affected by this woman? The ninjas, League of Assassin ninjas are everywhere. They're the waiters in the restaurants. They're spying. They're delivering messages. It's just the ludicrousness of it is just so fun and so funny. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun reading this. I think it's like 50 pages, so it felt very much like a good chunk of story. And clearly anybody who read Batman and Robin and Howard, the first either YA graphic novel or the individual issues, if you enjoyed that, you're going to love this. It's more of the same, but even elevated. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. So what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
If you want to know what it's like to have being served a muffin by a ninja, pick this up. No, look, it's a lot of fun, and like I said, I skim read this. It's just not my. It's just not something. I think it's obviously for younger readers, but it does have a charm about it, and it's absolutely something that if this would make a great gift for I think a younger reader, and yeah, for sure. And you get a decent bang for your buck here, in terms of the price point as well. I mean, it's part two of three, and so I mean, all told, you're gonna have like 150 pages of you know. I, of story here, and each individual issue, I think, while each issue has its own story within it, but it's part of a larger narrative as well if you to connect them all. So yeah, and yeah, in fact, I think I saw a guy. I was watching a video on the San Diego Comic Con, and I'm pretty sure one of the people I saw in the video dressed up like the Batman, Robin and Howard Batman, because I wasn't sure, but because I remember in the video somebody said you must be Adam West, and he says no, I'm Howard Batman. So I'm pretty sure he was referring to this, and anyways, it's cute, but yeah, it's a
Yeah,
recommend.
that's awesome. All right, there's a few other individual issues out this week as well. Batman and Scooby Doo Mysteries Season 3, number 8. Also, the Blue Beetle, number 11, has a Spanish edition. And then Scooby Doo, Where Are You, is up to issue number 129. As far as collected editions this week, we've got Birds of Prey, Volume 1, which collects the first 6 issues of the Birds of Prey series by Kelly Thompson that we were talking about earlier. Batman and Robin, Volume 1, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Simone DeMeo. Again, collects the first 6 issues of that. We've got Batman Hush, the compact edition. So those are the much smaller, like 5x7. There's also a compact edition of Wonder Woman Earth 1, which is the Grant Morrison story with art by Yannick Paquette. We also have Nightwing Year 1, the 20th Anniversary Deluxe Edition hardcover. There's 2 different versions of that based on which cover you might want. There's I think a book market one, a direct market one. So that collects Nightwing Year 1 with some never before seen extras. Originally was printed in Nightwing, the first volume, 101 through 106, written by legendary Chuck Dixon. We also have Flash by William Meisner Loebs and Greg LaRocque Omnibus. Collects a ton of the era of Flash that was written by William Meisner Loebs. It's 984 pages for $125. So it's basically the start of Wally West as the Flash post-crisis, right? So that 1987 series, very famous cover, yellow background. He's racing a jet, and it collects that as well as some other tie-in issues from that series. Then we also have Green Lantern War Journal Volume 1, Contagion. That's the recent Green Lantern War Journal series that just ended, written by Philip Kenny Johnson with art by Montos. We have Batman Wayne Family Adventures. This is the webtoon series. So this collects episodes 95 through 116 of the webtoons for Wayne Family Adventures, if that's your particular cup of tea. And then finally, we have well, actually, two more things. We have Fire and Ice: Welcome to Smallville. That's the Joanne Starrer miniseries that we reviewed, all 6 issues, as well as the Power Girl special that led into it. And then, lastly, there is a Elseworlds Batman Volume One trade paperback, and it is 536 pages, and it collects not all, but a lot of the classic Batman Elseworlds tales. So you have Holy Terror, you have Batman the Blue and the Gray, and the Bat, Robin 3000 1 and 2, Batman Dark Joker the Wild, Batman Houdini, Batman Castle of the Bat, Batman and Darkest Night, and Batman Dark Allegiances. So it's a ton of basically 90s Elseworlds tales if you are so inclined to check that out. So, all right. Well, I guess it's time for Book of the Week, Rocky. We know what yours is already. I guess I have to take a look here at mine. And, like I mentioned, I did like the way Blue Beetle ended, so that gets some consideration. And I also thought that the Batman tie-in was Absolute Power tie-in was pretty solid, although maybe not quite as good as it could be. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the My Adventures with Superman issue number 3 because, again, it was just a heck of a lot of fun. It really captures the spirit of the cartoon. And it's set during the holiday season. And, it might be August and 118 degrees here in Phoenix, but I definitely love the holidays. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going with for my pick.
Good choice. Yeah, good choice.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the San Diego Comic-Con content over on the Comic Source YouTube channel. Just do a search for the Comic Source, and you'll find all the interviews. Also, if you're curious about our past audio-only content, just go to wherever you get your podcasts, whatever app or platform you prefer. Do a search for the Comic Source, and there's literally thousands of episodes of past material for you to enjoy. If you are checking us out on the audio-only feed, don't forget that you can join Rocky and I every week on his channel, so you can see the terrible art in Gotham City Sirens, if that's your thing, or all the other great art that exists in these books this week. And you get to see our smiling faces as well. So if you want to join us on YouTube on Rocky's channel, comic space boom exclamation point. Once you're there, you know what to do. Ring the notification bell, leave some comments. Let us know what you thought about the art in Gotham City Sirens. Let us know what your book of the week is. We always love to have great conversations in the comment section. But be sure you ring that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the content that comes out. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate you joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.